So I'm also not privy if indeed these were government-to-government transaction. Kaya pag G2G, you really don't need to transfer it to PSDBM. In fact, if you make procurement at kailangan mong dalhin sa malawakang scale, worldwide, if it's global, you usually utilize UNICEF or UN organizations kung saan nagpupul yung mga bansa para magkaroon ng ganitong procurement. So, this should not be repeated, and maybe in aid of legislation, it can also be investigated in the House. Para lang yung proseso, no? When can you transfer? When can you not transfer? And if it's too technical, do you transfer it to an agency that do not have the technical expertise? So maybe Secretary Duque is the best person to answer that. Kasi siya naman yung talagang nakakaalam bakit nilipat yung ganong kalaking halaga. Moreover, the problem there is kung mawala yung technical expertise, mahirap kasi bumibili ka ng mga gamit tapos hindi gagamitin ng end user. And again, that's public health so mahirap din yan. Maybe it's also possible na nanahimik yung iba kasi alam naman natin na nagkaroon din ng maraming harassment sa mga scientists at mga doctors sa Department of Health. Yung iba ginagawan-gawan ng kaso. So maybe Secretary Duque can really shed light on what really happened, because I know that deep inside he knows the full story. Now, kung talagang kinailangan yon, walang masama doon, pwede niyang maipakita. But I actually came across one of the interviews where he was saying, because he was chairman of the IATF, hindi na kayang mag-procure ng department. Medyo palagi namang marami ang trabaho ng department. And actually, the IATF expanded the team. So, baka mas magandang ang matanong sa kanya para hindi na maulit. And then, public health allocation should not be wasted.
If the question is how high should it go, I think we should rely on ano din yung evidence that was presented before the Ombudsman. Kasi kahit na gusto natin na ma-involve lahat, di ba, sa kaso na final, then it should also be limited to what we can actually show and what we can actually prove. I think the agency that should handling that, the Ombudsman, should base it on evidence pa rin that has been presented. Kasi sometimes emotions would want us to include everyone remotely connected to the issue. In as much as we want to do that, if it will end up pa rin na ma-dismiss lang din or ma-acquit lang din, di ba? Sa akin, is, let's just limit ourselves to what can be proven, what has been proven, and what the evidence can show.
Just to add lang po, no, clarity lang po sa ating mga kababayan, minsan po nakakalito rin. Ang Ombudsman po kasi ay yung independent constitutional body tasked with pursuing these criminal administrative cases against yung mga public officials po. Hindi po ito korte. So kailangan po maintindihan yung trabaho po ng Ombudsman ay mag-ready po ng kaso na ifa-file. So sa tingin po natin, we are not ready po siguro to comment on whether it should go higher or not. Kasi po, yun nga po yung trabaho ng Ombudsman. Sila po yung nagre-receive po ng evidence at they assess from there po kung sino dapat ang kakasuhan, and then they file this either the Sandigan Bayan or the proper venue. So, just an idea po, ganun po yung proseso. So, sa tingin po namin, sa tingin ko po, personally, if the Ombudsman sees fit na hanggang kay Secretary Duque lang po, baka that, like what Kong Flores mentioned, baka dahil nandun lang, hanggang dun lang po talaga yung ebidensya. Or, upon finding of the Ombudsman, baka hanggang dun rin talaga yung extent ng criminal culpability. So, yun lang po, I think, just to restate, we leave it to Ombudsman. We trust, we have great confidence po sa kanilang capabilities and integrity, and we would not doubt po kung ano yung move po ng Ombudsman here. Thank you.
Okay, Billy, go ahead.
Isa pa po, hingi lang po ng reaction after po nung third hearing sa Senate nung PDEA leaks, so-called PDEA leaks. Meron mas lumakas po yung panawagan ng ibang senators na tigilan na yung investigation nila.
Senate hearings and congressional hearings are actually paid by taxpayers' money. Kaya kapag may mga investigasyon, ang importante ditong masagot ay, saan ba ito patutungo? Ano ba ang magiging benepisyo ng taong bayan? Ano ba yung mga batas na kailangang gawin or mga batas na kailangang baguhin para matagunan at hindi maulit yung mga problemang nakikita? Apparently, in the Senate investigation on PIDEA leaks, what we are seeing is a confused narrative. Kasi nga nagtuturuan na ay hindi, nagsisinungaling yan, ay hindi, palaging ano yan, storytelling, liar, may mga ganong accusations. Now, where will this bring us? I believe the best thing that can be done as a legislator also is for the committee to go back, maybe 3 or 4 steps backward, gather all the evidences, decipher whether totoo ba yan o hindi. Because if you put alleged witnesses or whistleblowers in the limelight and gave them, meron kasing iba, gustong-gusto nila yan pag may media attention. Ngayon, pag nilagay mo sila doon at pinasalita mo ng pinasalita, sometimes others can tell the truth, pero yung iba kasi, they have to prove something at medyo nawiwindang na. And at the end of the day, sino ang kawawa dito? Yung mga taong bayang nako-confuse. Kasi it's human nature to be a little bit marites eh. But at the end of the day, yung marites ba na yun ay mamagandang maidudulot, lalo na't kung hindi totoo. Now, will that lead to instability of the country? Because people will be getting confused. And leaders are being accused. Paano naman yung mga, kasi ako naranasan ko yan na may mga magte-testify na kunyari expert, tas hindi naman expert. Yung ibang mga totoong experts ay hindi nabibigyan ng panahon na magsalita. But at the end of the day, it's actually ruining our country. It's okay to do investigations, pero dapat yung mga impormasyon na nilalatag ay totoo, nakitaan ng ebidensya, at talagang may direksyon. Because at the end of the day, we are wasting taxpayers' money. If there are really concrete allegations and proof, let's investigate. But if it's just an investigation so that people will talk about things, medyo mahirap rin yan. Kaya yun nga yung isa, there should be accountability of fake experts and fake witnesses. Maraming salamat.
I agree, no? Tama yung sinasabi ni Congresswoman Garin, na careful din tayo dapat. In fact, some senators have also cautioned the members of the committee na to proceed carefully. Kasi nga, when somebody testifies and claims this or that, ang impact niyan sa reputation of the person na being accused of something is damage na agad di ba? So we have to be careful on who we invite as witnesses and should we call them again in the succeeding hearings. Because what happened, as I saw some of the portions dun sa hearing na yun, di ba somebody made up this story and actually admitted na ginawa ko lang yun so that I can be in this committee hearing, which actually happened. So di ba, some are saying na it's now becoming a circus, yung committee hearing na yun. Tama yung sinabi ni Congresswoman Garin din. Anong direction? What do you want to achieve? Now, if you're running a circus, you will naturally invite the clowns in. So that's what we want to avoid. Diba? Sayang lang na hindi mo na kasi mabawi yung damage that you will do to the person once you testify na this or that. And it's based pala on something, some unnamed informant, based on an unverified claim, and no follow-up investigation was ever made. Diba? Yet, 3 hearings have already been spent on it. 1 more coming up daw, sabi nila. So, while it is not our place to tell them what to do, no? Pero sa akin lang, it's like, just like the House din, we should always be very careful in siguro selecting who we invite as so-called witnesses.
Initial comment po siguro, like we've always said before, generally we don't want to comment po on the proceedings of Senate as respect. But it can't be helped po, napakalaking issue po yung nangyayari doon. And we could see it. I think hindi na, don't take our word for it. Hindi na po kami siguro. I won't present this as comment namin. Pero tingnan po yung mga comment ng mga kapwa senador po nila. This is on the third hearing already. As early as the first, I think, or second hearing, may mga senador na who would take part of the committee only to say na parang this is not going anywhere. Senate President Zubiri made a statement during the hearing, I think, the second hearing, nag-statement po siya sa, I guess, media forum rin nila sa Senate na urging caution kay Chairman Bato and his committee. It happened again during the third hearing. This time, si Senate President Zubiri nag-attend mismo ng hearing just to say that urging caution and urging proper use of their time. And I understand the respect siguro po. They have all due respect kay Chairman Bato so as not to interfere. After all, committee niya po ito. Pero you could see the sentiment po. This is not us talking. This is yung Senate po mismo. They are out there to, as Senate President Zubiri said, to protect the integrity of our Senate, your Senate. Siya na po mismo nagsasabi, parang in kinder terms po, no, na tama na po. Parang it seems to be going nowhere. We've had many senators who seem to express the same sentiment. Pumasok po doon dati si Senator Grace Poe, made that comment. Senator Escudero, Senator Jinggoy. You also have other senators who have attended and really po, I don't know kung saan po. Ako po mismo, di ko po rin po alam kung saan po papunta itong committee hearing. And in general po, with that, nakakadismaya because again, in comparison, we have a lot of pending bills. Kami po dito sa House, tapos na po sa LEDAC priority. We're waiting on our counterparts sa Senate. You can see po kung gaano ka-precious ang time sa Senado. As compared dito, we have 300 plus congressmen. Pag committee, in and out, we have the luxury na magbabad sa hearing buo. Pero nakita po natin sa PDEA leaks, labas-pasok ang mga senator. This is not because hindi silang tatrabaho, but because they have other committees po siguro, they have other engagements. Pero ito yung nakapagtaka. Tapos na pa yung LEDAC priorities natin, sila hindi pa. Yet we have this third hearing going on fourth hearing na there are like 6 senators who are attending. Paano na po yung mga LEDAC priorities natin doon? Are they currently being discussed? Or is it going to go anywhere? Paano na po yung economic reform po natin? Parang wala pong nangyayari. So I think that's why, this is a personal opinion now, siguro in the House, na nakakadismaya po yung nangyayari doon. It seems to be nag-aaksaya po ng oras. And if you look at the hearing, 3 hearings na po yan, nagkaroon lang ng clarity at the very last hour nung pumasok po yung discussion between Senator Escudero and Attorney De Valle ba yun? Attorney De Villa. When they had the discussion on yung PDEA leak na mismo, doon lang nagkaroon ng clarity. And I think then and there, natapos na po yung issue ng inquiry. Supposedly, tukol sa PDEA leaks ito. Yet, we still afford these supposed witnesses, whistleblowers, the opportunity na sinasakay na po tayo kung saan-saan man na kwento to papupunta. So, yun lang po, I think, is our comment here. As much as possible, we would urge siguro po yung Senate to, we've always been urging them to give priority dito sa LEDAC natin and sa economic revisions. All the more now in light of this hearing po na parang dead end na po. Yun na po.
Bulang po. Nagkaroon po ba ng...
Sorry if I believe Congressman Sansing would also like to...
Sorry, very, very quick comment lang po. Actually, I think several things that we've noticed. First is, magsisinadye na po next week. So we have a lot of priority measures that we have to pass before we go on break. So hopefully po, we resonate the calls of the other senators na sana ma-funnel po yung time instead of gearing it towards the third hearing or a fourth hearing. Sana po mag-gear towards pushing for the priority measures. Siguro po, one thing that is a little bit concerning with regard to these hearings is merong narratives relating to the president. And that's perhaps something that we would like to, again, reiterate that whenever there are things relating to the president at nakikita po to in a national stage or even an international stage, it also affects the image of the country. So we would like to again reiterate our call to Senator Bato to please exercise caution in all of these hearings, and sana po in the way these hearings are conducted, mag-follow po tayo ng rules or ng protocol kasi meron pong nangyari wherein one of the witnesses, I believe it was Morales, said something a little bit untoward towards Senator Jinggoy, so towards a member of the Senate. So in those cases, usually here in the House, if a witness starts exhibiting those sorts of behavior, sinasabihan siya na we will hold you in contempt or we can cite you in contempt. Pero I think in terms of the procedural way it was conducted, medyo hindi po yata, the witness was not told to back down. So siguro po, yun lang po siguro. I think that's where the senators are coming from as well in the way that the hearings are being conducted. So yun lang po, just a few thoughts as well on the matter.
If I can add a little to what my colleagues mentioned. Actually, it's not a matter of because the president is the one being alleged to or alluded to. Whether that will be the president, whether it's a senator, it's a congressman, lalo't lalo na kapag pangkaraniwang tao. It's no difference eh. The issue here is not kung sino ang mga pinagsasabihan ng issue here. But the issue here is the code of conduct of a legislator. Kasi kami naman sa totoo lang, without the power of our people, we are nothing. Kung wala yung mandato ng tao sa amin, wala naman kami nung ganung power. So that power to legislate actually makes you the voice of your people. And proper conduct mandates that if you are the voice of your people, you have to be very careful na hindi magagamit yung boses na yon dun sa mga interest ng iba. Alam nyo, minsan marami ang pwedeng maging interest. Natural yan na merong mga gustong medyo magulo at masalimuot. There are just a minority of people who are happy if there is infighting. Pangalawa, it's a very prestigious body, that's Senate. So with due respect to Senator Bato na talagang inirerespeto naman natin, we cannot use the four corners of Senate and being a legislator to just put anything under the sun. With power comes responsibility. It's not because it's the president, meron mga artista na pinapangalanan. It's not the point eh. The point is, if this will not stop, this can be a precedent wherein anybody can be damaged just because merong nakapasok. Admittedly, in any organization, be it in the Philippines or abroad, meron talaga yung isang tao sa isang opisina na walang gagawin kundi mamuna, no, maghanap ng mali ng iba. And that happens in many offices. I've been to many offices in the executive and the legislative. Ganun talaga yun eh. Kasi ganun talaga yung tao. So there are offices na merong mga tao dyan na walang ibang gagawin, kundi maghanap ng mga diferensya, mag-report, or magmarites sa ibang mga opisina. But the real workers will become victims to this. Kasi yung mga taga-ikot at taga-intriga, pag hindi mo i-validate yun, ang mga natatamaan ay yung totoong nagtatrabaho. So how can we now deliver to our people if we will have a system like this that unvalidated witnesses will be given the platform? Because, I mean, as a doctor, merong iba dyan na sa psychology nila, let me have that 2 cents worth of getting the limelight. Mapupunta ka sa media, titingnan ka ng lahat. Yung iba niyan, baka nga medyo na bola, mga ganong bagay, no? I mean, pwedeng hindi ito nangyari, but as we are seeing the investigation, it's unfolding that there is no proper vetting of who will be given that microphone. Yes, the precious time of Senate is being dragged kasi nga maraming ang kailangang ipasa. Pero hindi lang yun eh. Andun yung power na binigay sa atin na temporary, na dapat nating pangalagaan, na hindi natin pwedeng gamitin para siraan yung iba unless there is really a clear basis. Again, with our power comes responsibility. With that responsibility is to make sure that the voice of the people at the legislative power will not be used by some interested parties. It's not about the president. It's not about actors or actresses and prominent people. Paano na yung iba? Na kung walang-walang laban, Kaya lang hindi sila makalapit sa isang senador at may lumapit doon at nanira ng ibang tao that will push them down to mental jeopardy. So we as legislators should be responsible to filter real, accurate witnesses.
Habol ko lang po, do you think po na put in question yung leadership ng Senate on how they handle yung PDEA leaks investigation?
On my part, hindi naman siguro because Senator Miggs is coming out, no, as I've heard from our colleagues. But I believe this is the best opportunity for the Senate leadership to come out in the open and call a spade and put order within the Senate.
We acknowledge the presence of House Committee on Women and Gender Equality Chairperson and Bataan 1st District Representative Geraldine P. Roman. Thank you for joining us, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone.
Dun sa leadership na, well, Senate President Miggs has several times made a comment na about being cautious about it now. But at the same time, he said that he also respects the committee system of the Senate. So I don't think it's really an issue on leadership, but rather siguro intent or purpose of the continued hearings on the PDEA leaks. I think that's where we should question. Ano ba talaga ang gusto nilang maabot?
May I add? Yes.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
We recognize the independence of the legislative branch of government. We are co-equal with the executive. And we do not question the prerogative of the Senate if they want to conduct an investigative inquiry, no? But let us be reminded that these acts, these investigations have a sole purpose of trying to improve legislation. So as my colleague said, what is the point? What is their real intention? You know, when I view things, how they are conducting this inquiry, and I look back at the past administration, I can't help but wonder, what is the real intent of Senator Bato de la Rosa? I would like to think that he would like to improve in legislation, no? But I've also asked myself, you know, it's inevitable, it's in the mind of everyone. Kung itong investigasyon na to ay nangyayari sa nakarang administrasyon, ano kaya nangyayari ngayon, ano? Parang merong kakulangan ng paggalang sa pagkatao ng ating Pangulo. Pati ngayon kino-question, malinaw naman lumalabas sa press na negative siya. Bakit natin pinagpipilitan? So, nananawagan ako sa aking kaibigan, Senator Bato de la Rosa. Maybe you should focus your energy on more productive and matters that really concern our citizens in the country. Katulad nga mamaya, siguro mapag-uusapan din natin yung ating rice tarification law, yung anti-discrimination bill based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, and so many, many other legislative measures that are more pressing and more urgent, no? So, para sa akin, it's a waste of time, really.
Thank you. Okay. Next question from Haji Camino of Brigada News.
Good morning po mga kongs. Question na po regarding the rice. Speaking of the amendments to RTL, especially kay Kong Mika siguro. Yesterday po nag-start na yung plenary debates regarding the amendments to the rice tarification law. So far, ano po yung masasabi ninyo sa naging proseso nung pagtatanong at saka yung mga na-come up po doon? And masusunod po ba sa palagay ninyo yung timetable, yung pagpasa sa second reading and probably by next week yung up to third reading nung panukala? And ano po kaya yung magiging chances? What are the chances na may papasa po ito sa inyong counterparts sa Senate given that some of these senators ay may agam-agam at parang tumututol po no, sa amendments to RTL?
Thank you po. With regards po to how the procedures went yesterday, actually, medyo feeling po namin, medyo bugbog pa yung katawan ko ngayon. 4 hours po kami tumayo ni Chair Mark at ni Kong Stella sa plenaryo kahapon para po i-field lahat po ng questions sa mga interpellators. So, in terms of the discussions po, I believe in my sponsorship speech, I requested our colleagues to start like a very fruitful and productive discussion, and I think we were able to accomplish that. We opened the floor to everyone who wanted to interpellate. So kahapon po we had 4 interpellators and several of them maxed out the 1 hour that was given to them to interpellate. So talaga pong bago po namin close kahapon yung period of sponsorship and debate, sinigurado po namin na lahat ng gustong magsalita, lahat ng gustong magtanong, lahat ng merong proposals, proposed amendments na gusto pong ilatag ay nabigyan po namin ng pagkakataon na magsalita. At yun po, we are currently working on the amendments kasi po pagkatapos kahapon ng period of sponsorship and debate, this afternoon we're going to start the period of amendments, and we're incorporating several of the inputs from the different interpellators yesterday in crafting the amendments for this afternoon. So yun po, para po sa amin, extensive po yung deliberasyon, hindi lang po sa plenaryo. Mahalaga po na i-share ko po na siguro po inabot kami 4 na araw yung hearings namin, on average mga 7 to 8 hours per day. So lahat po ng stakeholders, lahat bukod po sa mga congressman, bukod po sa mga government agencies, binuksan din po namin yung oportunidad sa mga stakeholders, sa mga farmer groups, sa mga traders, sa mga warehousing, lahat po binuksan po namin yung floor para po makapagsalita sila. So yun po, para po sa amin nung isinata po namin yung period of sponsorship and debate, siguro po nagkaroon na kami ng higit 20 oras na ibinigay sa lahat ng mga stakeholders na gusto pong makapagsalita. With regard po to the timeline, we're actually very much on track. Ang amin pong ipinangako, yung tulad po na sinabi ni Chair Mark din kahapon nung nagsalita siya sa press conference, ang target po namin ay ma-aprubahan po on second reading ngayong araw yung bill natin, amending the Rice Tarification Law. And ngayon po is period of sponsorship and debate. So hopefully, either by today or by tomorrow, maaprubahan na po natin sa plenaryo on second reading. And then thereafter, next week po, maaprubahan natin on third reading bago po mag-sinidye break yung Kongreso. Patungkol po dun sa huli niyong tanong, ano po yung chance na maaprubahan po ito sa Senado? In terms of the timeline, we're hoping na kapag na-certify po ito na ating presidente as urgent, that would give them better flexibility in terms of their timelines in the Senate. So ngayon po, based on my understanding, the last time we checked, wala pang deliberations on the committee level on the part of the Senate. But based on what we know, there are several legislators who are coming up with their proposal with regards to the bill. So hopefully po meron na pong maisalang sa Senado. Siguro po ang masasabi din po namin sa aming mga kaibigan sa Senado, we very extensively worked on crafting the version of the House. We would like to invite our dear colleagues in the Senate to please look at the provisions that we've crafted on the part of the House. I know several of them po, tulad po na sinabi nyo, may agam-agam, may initial concerns, but we've sought to address most of the concerns raised by the stakeholders in our extensive deliberation. So sana po, dito po sa version na inilatag po namin sa plenaryo, sana po tignan po nila ng maigi yung mga provision. At kung ano man yung agam-agam nila, sana po na-address po namin yon in the latest version of the bill. And we're very, very hopeful because once the President certifies this measure as urgent, kahit po next week, kaya po nila yun maipasa dire-diretso. Hopefully, if mag-start po sa ng committee hearings this week, ma-second and third reading po nila next week. So, we're still very, very hopeful on the part of the House. Again, our Speaker Martin Romualdez, and President Bongbong Marcos echoed the call that this is a very, very urgent measure. Initially nga po, we were even looking at a June timeline in terms of enacting this into law, because right now, as per our definition in the current bill, we are in a food security emergency because we have 3 parameters: shortage in the supply of rice. So sa awa po ng Diyos, hindi naman tayo doon nagkakaproblema. Pero doon po sa parameters natin na sustained increase in price, in the retail prices of rice, doon po tayo pumapasok ngayon. At yun nga po yung objective ng ating Pangulo, ng ating Speaker, kaya po sinasabi nila na urgent measure ito dahil napakataas ng presyo ng bigas sa merkado. Wala po ngayong pagkakataon yung pinakamahihirap ng mga pamilyang Pilipino na makakuha ng access sa mas murang bigas. Kaya yun po, sana again, as principal author of the measure, I appeal to our friends in the Senate to please expedite the passage of this measure, of this very, very urgent and important measure. Because at the end of the day po, our primary objective is twofold. One is to mabigyan po natin ng access yung mga pinakamahirap na mga pamilyang Pilipino sa mas murang bigas. At pangalawa po ay matulungan natin yung ating mga magsasaka na mapababa yung cost of production nila. So we seek to increase the productivity of our local rice sector dahil gusto din po nating itaas yung rice self-sufficiency natin. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
May I add? Matagal nang iniintay ng ating mga magsasaka at ng sambayang Pilipino ang pag-amyenda ng Rice Tarification Law. Maganda po ang hangarin ng Rice Tarification Law. It is to empower our farmers and to make them competitive, Pero kung iikot po kayo sa ating bansa, at alam ko ito rin ang sentimiento ng aking mga kasamaan dito sa House of Representatives, because we are in direct engagement with our constituents and we get to talk to farmers almost on a weekly basis. Hindi po sila sang-ayon sa present version ng Rice Tarification Law. And this is the reason kung bakit mula po sa Komite ng Agrikultura at sa panghihikayat na rin po ng ating Pangulo at ng ating House Speaker ay tinabaho po ng maigi na mga kasamaan ko dito sa Kongreso ang pagpasa nitong Rice Tarification Law. The problem is, of course, food stability and pagtaas ng presyo ng bigas. At tinutugunan natin to by empowering the NFA, giving it the authority to purchase rice para ma-boost ang kanyang buffer stock, to prevent scarcity or in certain cases na merong pagtaas ng presyo ng bigas. And also the increase dun sa RCEF to 15 billion, makakatulong yan, pero kulang pa nga rin baby steps. Kailangan siguro planuhin din natin kung paano natin to trickle down tong RCEF to make it more systematic. Maybe we should have macroeconomic planning para to prevent yung oversupply ng mga crops, katulad ng ginagawa ng mga ibang bansa sa Europe, sa States. Pinaplano nila, dapat ganito karaming crops, ganitong karaming at saka pinaplano nila yung timeline to prevent scarcity and pagtaas ng presyo. And of course, pagdating sa mechanization, alam nyo, itong competitiveness is very important Sabi sa akin, sabi lang naman sa akin ng mga farmers na nakakausap ko. Ma'am, kasi ang problema, binuksan ka agad ng merkado sa imported rice bago kami ginagawang competitive. Baliktad. Dapat, gawin mo munang competitive ang ating mga magsasaka bago mabuksan ang ating merkado sa imported rice. Kasi ang baba ng cost of production sa ibang bansa, pero sa atin ang taas. So how can you be competitive? Palugi na lang. Of course, NFA, this is the reason kung bakit ang inyong lingkod, I also filed a a bill, no, that will enable the NFA to purchase drying machines para hindi tayo forever with this excuse na ang taas ng moisture content kaya hindi nila binibili, no. But in this case, yung milled rice mabibili na nila. So sa ating mga kaibigan sa Senado, I know you can find it in your hearts. Lagi naman ganitong mensahe natin mula sa House of Representatives. Let's walk the talk. Ito si Kong Janet Garin, lagi ang in-engagement sa mga farmers sa Iloilo. Pag nakakausap ko yung mga ibang farmers, pag nagdalaw ako sa area ninyo, kilala nila na in touch tayo with reality So maybe our friends in the Senate would listen. And I'm confident that the chairperson of the Committee on Agriculture will find it also in her heart. No, sa Senado, si Jacinta Villar. I know she's a good person. She has compassion in her heart. And this would be a very, very good legacy for all the farmers. Lahat naman ng bagay na improve sa mundo di ba? Hindi naman como naipasa na natin tong RTL 1 version, hindi na natin kayang improve. We can work on it. It's a work in progress as we discover the situation, as we listen to the farmers, mahalaga yan. At pag pinakinggan ninyo, mga mahal namin mga senador, ang ating magsasaka, maniwala kayo, nagkakaisa sa kanilang tinig na dapat baguhin itong rice tarification law at ginagawa na po namin sa House. So, the ball is on your side of the court upang tugunan ang malawakang pananawagan ng ating mga magsasaka na baguhin itong rice tarification law at empower sila. Let's walk the talk. Nakakasawa na kasi, diba? Lagi na lang sinasabi, the proverbial, ito nga ating mga magsasaka sila naglalagay ng pagkain sa hapagkainan ng ating mga pamilyang Pilipino. Mahalaga sila, but show the love. Baguhin nyo yung rice tarification law para matulungan sila. And of course, our consumers. At syempre yung ating food stability. Thank you.
If I may add lang po, to our friends in the Senate, kung ano man po yung mga agam-agam nyo, whatever your questions are, ako po at si Chair Mark as authors of this measure and Kong Stella, bukas po ang aming telepono, bukas po lahat ng communication channels. If there's something that we can address to help you quell the concerns that you have with regards to the measure, please reach out to us. I keep on saying please, kasi po this bill, apart from being a priority of the administration, is of utmost personal importance to me. I have dedicated several years of my life in the study of the rice tarification law. It was my master's thesis in Harvard University. So talaga pong ilang taon na ng buhay ko yung ginugol ko po para po sa measure na ito. Kaya siguro po, I hope that also serves as an assurance to our friends in the Senate that this House version has been studied very, very extensively. At tulad nga po ng sinabi ni Kong Geraldine, this was born out of our interactions with the farmers. So when we did our study, for me personally, prior to filing this bill, I did field work, as in I interviewed over 400 farmers from different parts of the country just to understand yung current plight nila. Ano po yung problema nila sa current version ng RCEF, effective ba to sa kanila on a personal standpoint, even to the point of granularity? Ito bang mechanization program, nararamdaman nyo yung seed program, yung training, at yung credit? At lahat po ng mga natutunan namin mula po sa lahat ng mga panayam na ginawa namin sa mga magsasaka ay naka-incorporate na po sa bill na ito. So, yun lang po. To our friends in the Senate, our communication lines are open. Please reach out if there's any way that we could help to also help you expedite the passage of this measure. Please do let us know. Maraming salamat po.
And as a true Nova Ecijana, Nueva Ecija is the rice granary of Luzon, and she knows and they know what they're talking about. Siyempre lahat ng aming mga distrito, merong agrikultura, mahalaga yan. At nagkakaisa, palagay ko. Ewan ko lang Kong Janet, ganun din yata ang pananawagan sa Iloilo, sa Bukidnon din. Same. So who are we to turn a blind eye to the plight of our farmers?
Thank you po.
Thank you. Let us recognize Marian Enriquez from TV5.
Sorry, good morning po. Ongoing po kasi ngayon yung Social Services Committee hearing, and earlier today, pinasa po nila yung numbered substitute bill to institutionalizing and strengthening po itong DSWD food stamp program. Isa po dun sa pinag-usapan is 3,000 pesos po kasi per month yung binibigay dun sa mga purse of the poor. So they're like trying to imagine po yung mga lawmakers natin dun sa committee, 15 pesos kasi per meal yung budget kumbaga. So Congresswoman Pancho said kasi with the inflation, baka pwede naman natin itaas sa 5,000 per month. So kayo po, ano po ba sa tingin nyo po yung nakabubuhay or tamang halaga for this, and what were your thoughts on this po?
3,000 pesos is only supplemental. Kumbaga, hindi naman, we're not expecting that to actually cover yung meal expenses. Pangdagdag lang po. Of course, gusto natin mas marami, but that will depend on appropriations, no? If there is money. If at this moment we're talking about 3,000 is because this is what is available for the moment. And of course, we welcome that dahil malaking tulong yan para sa poorest of the poor families where food is actually a problem. But then again, as we say, our goal here in Congress is, of course, to provide immediate relief, but also to look for long-term solutions. Katulad nitong rice tariffication law. If rice is more accessible, mas mababa ang presyo, hindi na mo problema ang karamihan ng mga pamilyang Pilipino.
Thank you. Other Kongs po.
Talagang hindi sapat yung 3,000. But the good thing is, nasimulan ang programang ito under the BBM administration. Kasi sa napakatagal na hinaing na pagkaroon ng food stamp program, ngayon lang ito na isatupad. So in other words, it might not be enough, but it's a good start. And it's not the only program. So alam natin later on, pwedeng tumaas yan. But what is important is that yung food stamp program, isang bagay lang. Ang isang maganda dito ay kaakibat siya ng ating DSWD retailers who are mostly our farmers and our MSMEs. In other words, it's just one component of the whole big pie of public services. So kung titingnan natin, magkakaroon ng maraming oportunidad na panghanap buhay, magkakaroon ng mas maraming tulong. We also have the AKAP program na nung una-una ay nilalait-lait. Pero bakit nga ba natin ito pipigilan? And we're very thankful for the leadership of the House and for DSWD for fighting this out. Kasi nga, yung AKAP program, ang ibig sabihin nun, magtrabaho ka at tutulungan ka ng gobyerno. Hindi yung maghintay ka na lang na mahuhulog yung lahat ng grasya galing sa gobyerno. The food stamp program is also another thing. So, ang nakikita natin dito on a bigger perspective, ang daming programa, pinagsasabay-sabay, pero isa lang ang layunin, ang mabigyan ng mas magaang buhay ang bawat pamilyang Pilipino. Dahil bawat buhay ay mahalaga at bawat bahay dapat may pagkain.
Meron pong nagpapatanong din, kasi hindi raw po ba parang puro band-aid solutions na lang yung ginagawa ng DSWD promoting culture of dependence?
Yeah, I don't think it's a band-aid solution. Because if you look at the food stamp program, hindi lang naman Pilipinas yung, ang dami nang gumawa ng bansang ito. And even the United States have their own food stamp program. Ang titingnan kasi natin dito, nabibigyan ng gobyerno yung tulong yung mga nangangailangan. But on the other hand, the bigger impact there is yung binibilhan natin ay yung mga MSMEs, mga maliliit na negosyante, mga farmers, na yung kanilang produkto ay may mapupuntahan. So in other words, hindi na sila ngayon maiipit ng mga traders na wala na silang ibang choice kundi ibenta ng murang-mura yung kanilang mga produkto. So it's a collaboration of many things. Now let's talk about the other programs. Andun yung AKAP. Syempre, aminin natin, kunyari ikaw ay isang driver, meron kang mga anak. Kung hindi ka magdadrive dahil magbabantay ka ng mga anak mo, mas lalong walang kakainin yung mga anak mo. Kung ikaw naman ay magdadrive, at kung kumikita ka ng sabihin natin 20,000 or 15,000, hindi mo naman kayang bigla ng sobrang malaking sweldo yung magiging yaya ng iyong mga anak. So dito pumapasok yung DSWD. So we cannot have a myopic view of what the DSWD is doing. The Department of Social Welfare and Development is doing one program with various impacts. Kunyari sa AKAP, natutulungan mo yung ating mga middle-income professionals na magkaroon ng katulong sa buhay para mas lalong lumaki ang kita nila. Look at our teachers, magkano yung sweldo nila. Look at our health workers, yung ating mga basic na health workers. Hindi naman nila kaya na kumuha ng mag-aalaga sa kanilang mga magulang na sobrang mataas ang sweldo. So dito pumapasok yung DSWD. Multifaceted yung kanyang impact. Those who are saying na maliit na bagay lang are actually looking at it at a myopic view. And for you to be a leader and a manager of people, maganda ang ginagawa ng DSWD kasi ginagampanan niya ang isang bagay na you are actually hitting multiple birds with one program.
Apo. If I may po, just several comments on this. First po is the scale or the target number of beneficiaries. I was looking at the DSWD food stamp program. I think by July 2024, they're targeting about 300,000 beneficiaries. So siguro po, we have to keep in mind that what they're targeting are food poor families. So families who are otherwise unable to eat. So yun po siguro yung mahalaga. It's I don't want to call it a band-aid solution, but it's an immediate way to address an immediate pressing need. So yun po siguro yung gusto ko lang i-highlight doon. I have yet to see the version of the committee. I also have yet to see kung ano po yung basis nila for coming up with the 3,000 pesos. But perhaps we have to see it from that perspective that we are addressing a very pressing need that otherwise hindi po ma-address ng mga pamilya na yun, hindi sila makakakain. From a little bit of the bigger picture, kasi while these are social amelioration programs and these programs are really geared towards helping through the payouts, the cash outs, addressing these immediate needs, we are addressing institutional barriers to these families, for these families to gain access to a sufficient amount of food. Halimbawa po, two that I could mention now is we're addressing causes of unemployment. So yun naman po yung isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit marami pong mga food poor na mga pamilya ay yun po ay dahil wala pong trabaho yung mga magulang o wala pong trabaho yung mga miyembro ng pamilya. And that is one thing that the administration of President Bongbong Marcos has been working very hard in addressing. So it's really increasing employment numbers, and yan po nakikita naman po natin na nagtatrabaho ng todo-todo yung ating presidente para makakuha ng additional investments, be it local or foreign investments, para po makapagtayo ng mga businesses that could generate more employment. So that's one barrier that's one lever that we're addressing. That's a that's a medium to long-term thing that we're trying to address. So that's to address the issue around unemployment. The second po that we're trying to address, sinabi na rin po ito ni Kong Geraldine and Kong Janet. This is with regard to addressing the drivers of food inflation. Bakit po nahihirapan yung mga pamilya na bumili ng sapat na pagkain? Yun po ay dahil mahal yung mga bilihin, mahal yung mga pagkain. So that's exactly what we're trying to address. Every press conference po, lagi kong hina-highlight that the primary driver of food inflation is rice inflation or inflation in the price of rice. So that's what we're addressing now through the measure that the RTL measure, the Rice Tarification Law Amendments measure, that's to address the rice, the increasing or persistently high price of rice. So yun po, we're working very hard even in terms of the other commodities or other food staples na binibili po na ating mga kababayan, we're addressing these different drivers of food inflation. So two two institutional things, or two medium to long-term levers which we seek to address, or the administration of President Bongbong Marcos is seeking to address, and that's to address the issue of unemployment, because when we're able to generate more jobs, we're able to give more people wages, and that would allow them to buy food. The second medium to long-term thing which we seek to address as well is to address the drivers of food inflation, because once the prices of food go down, families would have better access to food. Yun lang po, as a reaction to the question. Maraming salamat po.
Yes, I would just like to reiterate that, yes, we are working here in Congress to find mid and long-term solutions. Who wants a state of perpetual mendicancy? Nobody wants that. We want to empower the people. Sorry. We want to empower the people. And this is precisely the reason why we were pushing so hard for the amendments to the economic provisions of the Constitution, because if you may recall, we need more employment, job positions, so that many Filipino families will have a stable source of income. And the only way to do that is to attract more investors. And as things are, we cannot attract foreign investors to our country with the restrictive conditions that are present and reflected in the Constitution.
Short addition lang po, no? Kasi parang sinabi na rin po lahat ng kasamaan po natin dito sa Kongreso, sa presko na ito. But it would seem po, no, I would not agree. In a sense, opo, band-aid siya in the sense na mabilisan lang and very superficial. Pero kailangan po natin maintindihan na kaya nga po may DSWD. Cornerstone po ng policy ng government natin talaga ay social welfare, social amelioration. Walang iwanan po ang gobyerno natin. We have to understand that we are not only helping the poorest of the poor, we are also helping ourselves as a society. Kasi po one of the baseline issues, kaya immediate need po yung hunger, and I think this just in addition na lang po sa maraming sinabing parameters for our continuous progression sa ekonomiya po, no? Yung isa po dito ay yung nutrition po ng ating mga bata. I think that's why this became a primary program of the Marcos administration. There's a very high correlation po between malnutrition and then deficiencies rin sa educational achievements. This in turn would affect yung kanilang capability to get jobs. Their capability to get jobs would affect their capability to produce and be productive citizens to contribute to our economy. So in a way po, it's a long-term strategy with short-term immediate needs po, no? So we all play into that. Lahat po ng programa na ginagawa po natin dito, pinapasa po natin sa Kongreso in coordination with the executive, sa tingin po namin ay in consideration ng long-term, but we cannot forget in short-term base needs. So in a way, band-aid solution, yes, superficial po in a way, kasi immediate lang po siya, but we do believe, I think, that this would have long-term effects. So yung pag-increase po dito, I think we would totally be in support. Insofar naman po, may caveat rin yan. We support increasing definitely because the more ayuda that we can bring, we believe the more that it could be able to help yung poorest of the poor natin. But at the same time, we have to balance it kung ano man yung economic forecast ng economic managers ng gobyerno po, no? Kasi there are other factors to consider. But yun lang po yung in addition.
Thank you po. Sorry, pwede mag-follow up ibang topic naman. May pinapatanong lang po yung office kasi pinapa-update nila kasi regarding dun sa DepEd, they have confirmed na po na susunod na nga no yung sa pag-revert sa old academic calendar by next year. Pero isa dun sa nakikita nilang way para lang po ma-address yung reduction of classes is magkaroon ng Saturday classes. So ano po ba yung take nyo dito? Kasi some groups are saying na wag naman na sana. Pero what's your take on this po? Magkaroon ng Saturday classes. Pero hindi naman all Saturdays.
Honestly, I'm of the belief that our children also need time with their families and also for mental health. No, it's balance, no, of leisure and sports and studies, no. Dun sa pag-adjust natin, pag-revert sa old schedule. Well, you know what? The reason why we try to adopt this new calendar is to more or less synchronize it with other countries around the world. But of course, they do not have the nuances of climate that we do here in the Philippines. Kami po, most of us, lumaki tayo sa lumang calendar, wala naman ng masamang nangyari. Ano po? Pag summer, enjoy po kami, kasama ang pamilya. Pag Semana Santa, dire-diretso na yun ng Mayo, Santa Cruzan, nagsiswimming, naglalaro, and then papasok kami ng Hunyo. So mamimili ka daw, mainit na panahon o tag-ulan. Palagi yun, ang baha, ang ulan, ay nagagawa ng paraan. And in fact, ang karamihan ng ating mga paaralan ay ginagamit ng mga evacuation centers, so pag merong baha. But ang init, anong gagawin natin? Ano? Mabuti na lang merong online classes, pero syempre, alam nating lahat na ang online classes are not as effective as face-to-face classes. So, personally, I am in favor of reverting back to the old calendar. Diyan kami lumaki, maraming henerasyon na lumaki dyan. At wala namang masamang nangyari. Ano po? Yun lang po.
Oh, okay. The issue is, babalik tayo dun sa lumang school calendar. But in order to catch up, the plan of DepEd is to have Saturday classes. Ganun, no? Ang problema kasi dun, yung Sabadong yon, dagdag pamasahe yon sa mga magulang na maghahatid sa kanilang mga anak. Ang problema naman kasi doon, yung mga ibang activities sa school na ginagawa ng Saturday ay maapektuhan. Kasi in my experience, no, meron kasing Saturday classes yung ibang schools, and this is actually geared to address yung mga alternative learning system. Nag-sharing kasi ng school. Now, it's a simple problem that can be addressed by a simple solution. Marami rin kasi yung araw na walang school yung ating mga government institutions, yung ating mga public schools. Yun ang dapat na mabawasan. Because if you're going to notice, and I believe DepEd can also look into this, may mga holidays tayo, especially local holidays, na hindi naman ini-implement ng private schools. So bakit hindi nilang gano'n? We also have a lot of festivals, and I'm very supportive on those festivals. Kaya lang minsan, ang daming extracurricular activities ng school, pero nawawalan ng pasok, kinukulang yung school days. There should be a balance between academe and personality development. Kaya hindi naman pwedeng wala yung activities na yon, wala yung sports, ipaghahalo-halo yon. However, hindi pwedeng sumobra masyado yung local activities. So, I am not amenable to having Saturday classes in order to catch up, but I am proposing before the Department of Education to do away with unnecessary holidays, to do away with many other activities that actually takes away academic hours among the students. In that way, hindi na kailangan nilang bumalik ulit ng Saturday. Maybe a little extension, kasi iba half day lang yung class. So maybe a little extension na magsisimula ng, let's say, 1 hour earlier, or yung iba na afternoon class mag-extend ng 1 hour. So kaya yung i-catch up. But a Saturday class will really be a burden to the parents, especially parents who actually have weekend jobs.
Sorry, ma'am. Just to clarify lang din, kasi I think DepEd po said na blended yung gagawin nila if ever sa Saturday classes. So, well, it's the same din naman, parang tututukan din if synchronous.
So, blended online, no? Yung module. The problem there is DepEd really has to assess. While I do believe in online classes, I'm a firm believer in online classes, but what's happening on the grounds? Kasi sa totoo lang, we're doing healthcare. And I've tried to migrate into hybrid, pero ang hirap kasi yung connectivity ng mga bahay at mga schools, marami ang poor ang connectivity. So if you are having online classes, tapos putol-putol yung naririnig mo, how will you learn? At the same time, DepEd has already seen the impact noong online classes na yung iba ay talagang hindi natututo. So, it's very effective in certain situations where the connectivity is good and the family can afford a stable internet connection. But in many areas, like in my constituency, yung after the poblasyon, ang hirap kasi ng connectivity. So that becomes a problem. Doon na lang tayo mag-adjust sa maybe a little extension of a few minutes or 1 hour and to do away with many other activities na hindi na kailangan.
Thank you. Thank you, Marian. From ABS-CBN2, Bibian Gulia, you're recognized.
Good afternoon. Kay Kong Rog po, nagsumite na raw ng rekomendasyon ang LTFRB sa House regarding the motorcycle taxi pilot program. Ano po yung highlights nito? Kailan mataterminate? Meron daw pong endorsement na 3 original players muna ang payagang mag-operate hanggang maipasa yung batas. May timeline po ba on getting the bill on motorcycle taxis passed into law?
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, as much as I want to answer the question, yun rin pa yung mga tanong ko. Sa committee po, I don't think we have received yet that letter, kung meron man. Upon checking po, na balitaan po namin itong statement of the LTFRB for the past few days, dinouble check po namin sa committee, wala pa po namang na umabot na communication. But if we're going to take po yung statements nila in general, it would seem, in gist, ang sinasabi po nila is that with the conclusion, supposed conclusion ng taxi study this May 30 or 31 po ba, they would not have the authority anymore to proceed and they would actually suggest the conclusion of the taxi pilot study. With that, ang suggestion po ng LTFRB, kasi naintindihan po natin with 45,000 jobs on the line, ang suggestion po nila, although magko-conclude na po yung taxi study, which is needed rin po naman, to be fair with the LTFRB, na ma-wrap up na po ito at makuha na po yung resulta, considering the job loss of 45,000, they want to find a way po na patuloy pa rin po yung, kumbaga, status quo lang. Kung anong nangyayari po ngayon under the pilot study, although concluded na po, patuloy pa rin po yung major players. The 3, I would assume, although, like I said, wala pang official communication, I would assume we're still talking about Angkas, Joyride, and Move-It. Now, with that said po, no, personally, kami rin po sa party, we've been anticipating yung supposed end ng pilot taxi study. But it bears stressing siguro to remember that this is not the first time. Matagal na po nagkaroon ng pilot study and multiple extensions. I remember the first extension prior to pandemic, I think that was 2019. Yung nag-heed po ng call dito, I think si Senator Grace Poe. And I would not be surprised if our friends in the Senate, to be led again by Senator Grace Poe, or perhaps maybe our other friends there, would heed this call again. Kami po dito sa Congress, definitely we would be for the extension po, at least until we pass that bill. With that po, ma'am, I know yun po yung tanong nyo, pero magsasegue na rin po ako. And yung timeline po natin dito sa House, originally, there was a pronouncement. Verbal lang naman po, hindi po siya talaga certified as urgent, but verbally, sinabi po ng ating presidente that they wanted to prioritize yung pagpasa po itong motorcycle for hire bill. And nag-respond to the call naman yung leader po namin dito sa Congress, si Speaker Martin Romualdez. Nagkatuloy na po yung aming hearings and actually naipasa na po yung MC taxi bill sa committee level. We're anticipating, hopefully, ang original timeline was before sinidi adjournment, may magkakaroon na po kami ng second and third reading. But of course, understandable po given yung other priorities such as the RTL bill, medyo nagkakasabayan. But we're still hopeful, possible naman po sa aming timeline na sa Congress may pasa na ito. So dito po, I will borrow a few words from Kong Mika sa aming mga kaibigan sa Senado, our colleagues, please, 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 bigyan na rin po natin pansin yung ating MC taxi bill. Kung ano man po yung ating counterpart dyan, please, 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 matagal na po ito. Nag-third reading na po ito sa House ng last Congress. Ngayon, mukhang mag-third reading ulit kami. We're hoping po that finally, and given yung ultimatum that the LTFRB is saying, hindi rin po pwede yung provisional authority lang po. Actually, legally suspicious nga po yung the whole basis of it, especially without the MC taxi study, without the taxi study pilot program, no. So ang solution po talaga dito is maipasa na po itong batas. Kami po, we're ready, we're more than willing. Kung may agam-agam man po yung Senado, I'm basically repeating everything that Kong Mika said. Whatever it is that the Senate would require of us, we're willing to cooperate naman po. And I do hope that before the end of the 19th Congress, may isagawa na po ito as batas na po at hindi lang third reading palagi. Ayun lang po.
Thank you, Bibian. Kat Porbes from Radyo Pilipinas.
Hello po, ayan. Good afternoon po, Kongs. Recently po, no, nilabas po ng ating Coast Guard yung kanila nga pong naging findings na meron pong itinatayong parang reclamation ang China sa Escoda Shoal. And currently po ngayon, binabantayan na po nila ito. And apart from that, meron din pong hinihahanda daw itong China na blockade sa Panatag Shoal naman po. Ito po ay in opposition dun sa gagawing Peace and Solidarity Regatta ng atin ito coalition. Ano po kaya yung magagawa na, first reaction niyo po dito na meron na namang isang lugar na inookupaan China at ano po kaya yung magagawa pa po natin para po ito ay mapigilan?
Siguro po to start, we'd like to commend the PCG, no, Philippine Coast Guard, for naagapan po ito. Nakita po nila, and now that aware po yung government natin, we're confident po that the executive will take the proper measures to make sure na hindi mangyari ulit yung nangyari dun sa ating ibang shoals, no. Kasi yun po, it seems to be the technique ng China. Ang galing nila gumawa ng peke, kahit peking island, kaya po nila. So kailangan po natin maagapan talaga. Nasa territory po natin ito eh. And alam naman natin Pilipino, ayaw natin ng peke. Hindi po tayo papayag dyan. So again, we commend and we support fully the PCG. I have no doubts that the House, I don't have the authority, but I'm sure I speak for everyone here. We are in full support kung ano man yan, through our PCG, AFP, Navy, kung ano man yan. The issue of the West Philippine Sea is the foremost issue, I think, of our foreign policy right now. So talagang kailangan po natin bantayan po yung atin. Now, with that po said, yung counterpart naman, it seems to be their counter initiative nung China to be blockading a shoal for, I think, regatta. I would assume this is a civilian operation na parang fun boating lang naman po ito. Within our waters, by what authority po would they be? Ito po yung problema po natin sa China. They insist on having peaceful negotiations. They force us into bilateral agreements. Pero resupply mission, ayaw po nila. Food and water sa ating mga sundalo, ayaw po nila. Pag simple traversing of their waters, ayaw po nila. Which are, again, our waters in international standards, because of the arbitration, lahat po ng mundo, they see it, the world stage, tayo po yung tama dito. Ngunit ayaw po nila. At ngayon, hindi po sila papayag for a simple civilian fun boating experience. I think we follow, of course, the executive, the president as the chief architect of our foreign policy, but we fully support yung direction po that we're going. Now we're having we're taking a better, tougher stand po siguro on our territory, and I think we have nothing else to do but to express our full support for this. Yun lang po.
Ako, I'm speaking as a Filipino, hindi lang as a legislator, no? As a Filipino, ito masasabi ko, no to bullying. We are a nation that is governed by laws, and we belong to an international community where the rule of law should be recognized and respected by all nations in the world. It saddens me that a country like China, which has a rich history, one of the oldest civilizations in the world, is acting in an uncivilized manner. Nakakalungkot. Pantakin ninyo pati isang civilian initiative in favor of peace, in favor of harmony between nations, susupili nila. So ako, there comes a time in the life of every person, for every community, of every country, where you have to draw the line and say, tama na, sobra na. And we have to fight for what is ours. So ako, in the same way that I feel very much against bullying and discrimination, as a Filipino citizen, I cannot help but support our president na finally meron tayong isang leader na humaharap despite our limitations. But I am encouraged by the knowledge that we belong to a community of nations and that we have our allies as well who are more or less in the same dilemma. Na merong isang malaking bully na gustong ariin this part of the world, and we cannot let that happen. So kami dito sa Kongreso, I foresee in the coming budget season, we will also try to empower our Coast Guard. And of course, depend and strengthen our alliance with other civilized countries in the world. Pananawagan lang naman sa China. If I could just say it in Chinese, I would do it. Respect our country in the same way that you would like your country to be respected. This is not something that is, just because you are bigger in terms of geography and population or economic might, you think you can get away with it. This is unbecoming of the old and rich civilization that China has always been. We expect more from China. We should be partners and not enemies. Kaya nga lang, if you keep on bullying us, you're pushing us to the corner. There will come a time that we have to defend ourselves.
Thank you po. Last question po on my part. Ang DFA po plano na pong imbestigahan yun pong sinasabi po ng Chinese embassy na meron silang recording or yung wiretap recording regarding po dun sa panibago or alternative agreement daw po between the Philippines and or military official with a Chinese diplomat. So iimbestigahan na daw po ito ng DFA. Any comments lang po?
Personal opinion po, on an official stand, yes, we support the move by the DFA. Definitely have to do this. If you've been following po yung issue na ito, very unilateral, yung declaration po ng ating Department of National Defense and ating security agency and the National Security Council, todo po ang pag-deny to any form of new model na sinasabi. Todo deny to any gentleman's agreement na sinasabi. We welcome the development in the Senate for looking into an investigation on a gentleman's agreement. We look forward to having our own inquiry here in the House towards this gentleman's agreement. Pero one thing that we can see, in total unison po yung ating gobyerno. Kahit yung previous administration ngayon, although it might have been a leak doon kay ex-spokesperson Harry Roque na meron doon gentleman's agreement, pero upon checking with the personalities involved, sabi nila wala naman po talaga. So nakikita po natin, ito, personal opinion, naging desperado na po yung China. Kasi po, what kind of a foreign supposed state would try to intervene in our local politics by introducing these sort of fake or manipulated information to the point that hindi po sila makakasecure ng formal agreement. They will rely on trying to play public perception by using unauthorized wiretapped conversations. If it's even real, baka nga po AI ito. We've seen it happen. This issue po, like I said, the foremost issue for foreign policy is this issue of the West Philippine Sea with China. And it seems to be they will stop at nothing to sway us towards their way. So with that po, I don't know if we can speak for everyone else, but we support fully yung DFA in this investigation. And I hope that they would take the appropriate action regarding the Chinese narrative. Yun na po.
Ako, I support the investigation being conducted by the DFA, no? If they're gonna conduct one. Because it's really just China being China. And they're just bullying us. They're not following our laws, our rules, no? So, sa akin, they're just being themselves, no? Being bullies as they are. So, tama yung sinabi ni Rog kanina, no? And Congresswoman Roman, we can just take so much din, di ba? In fact, it saddens me that some Filipinos, current and ex-officials of the government, are saying a different tune. Di ba? We should be one in supporting our president, one in supporting our policies, no? And one in protecting our sovereignty over these islands and over these areas. So if they're claiming that there is some form of an agreement, our actions speak differently. We've been continuously supplying our troops there. We've been continuously patrolling the area. We've been continuously conducting drills. So what agreement is there to talk about? Diba? There's no such agreement.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Kat. Last question from Mela Lismoras of PTV4.
Hello, Kongs. Sorry, a few questions lang po, maiikli lang. Kasi as we speak, iuna ko lang po, as we speak kasi malakas yung ulan and even other parts of the country nakakaranas din ng malakas na ulan. Para sa inyo po, gaano kahalaga itong ipinatawag ni House Speaker Martin Romualdez na high-level meeting with the DPWH, DILG, MMDA today, and DNR para nga matalaka yung flood mitigation measures ng pamahalaan at gaano kahalagang matutukan din ng House itong issue ng pagbaha, lalo na with the threat ng La Nina phenomenon?
It's really a very important and urgent matter. That's why we thank the Speaker na naisip niya ito, where a collaboration of many minds has been given a venue to vent out all their problems and how the government can be more supportive. Ito nga yung sinasabi namin kanina na we are actually the voice of our people. And what the Speaker is doing is putting all those voices in where it should be. Kasi pag boses, hindi ibig sabihin no, nag-iingay ka lang eh. One of the greatest voice is actually listening. So pinapakinggan ni Speaker yung pangangailangan at yung solusyon. And that is how our government should be. What are the problems of flooding? Siyempre, pagka bumabaha, hindi mo mauuwian agad-agad yung iyong mga anak na pwedeng temporary lang yung nagbabantay doon at kailangan ng umuwi sa bahay nila. Yung cost sa ating mga empleyado na kailangan bumiyahe. The illness, the diseases that comes with leptospirosis, that's very deadly. Ang daming problema na dapat nga sa ngayon pa lang nahahanapan na ng possible solution. So, hindi naman na, just because we are in one house, it's not the point eh. The point here is that many people can actually see the reality that we have a working speaker, a hard-working speaker at that is not only the voice of the people, but is a big listening ear. That's why we call him Kuya Martin. Yung pinapakinggan niya yung problema ng mga pangkaraniwang tao para maisip naman ng Kongreso paano ito mabigyan ng solusyon. So again, in one word, it's extremely important. 3 words pala.
So, yes, we are a body, the House of Representatives, that is in direct engagement with our people. At nakikita nyo naman with the type of legislation that we are passing that responds to different aspects of the lives of every Filipino family. And we try to come up with short, mid, and long-term solutions na merong pinagbabasihan at meron talagang hugot. Speaking of which, maraming sa inyo hindi nakakalam dahil mainit na usapin nitong RTL. Ngayong hapon ay tatalakayan din po sa plenaryo ang panukalang batas which has held the record of being the legislative measure that has spent the most time in Congress being debated upon. Hulaan nyo kung ano tong panukalang batas na to. Correct. Ang anti-discrimination bill based on SOGSC, So this is also part of our attempt to allow Filipinos who just happen to be LGBT the opportunity to work, to study, to receive services from the government, to use public accommodations, access commercial establishments without discrimination. Maraming iba, they will dismiss this, hindi naman kailangan yan. Hindi, kailangan eh. In the same way that we fight for our senior citizens, our PWDs, our indigenous peoples, for women, for minors, kailangan nila ng mga special na batas para protection na sila because for the longest time, hindi level ang playing field at namamarginalize sila. Kailangan din ang sektor na ito. 24 years. May record na po siya dito. So the question is, why aren't we capable here in the House of Representatives of passing a national legislation against discrimination? When in fact, as we speak, my dear colleagues, there are already a total of 70 plus LGUs that have passed anti-discrimination ordinances in response to the growing clamor to protect a sector of society that has been ignored. Alam niyo, pagdating ng malapit ng halalan, I'm not saying all. Kinikilala ng marami na sa amin na ay mahalaga ang LGBT, maraming contribution. Pero pagdating sa pag-recognize ng kanilang legal rights, need privileges, just the right to work, to study, to receive services from the government and without discrimination. And parang nalilimutan yung aspekto na yan. Kaya nga ang pananawagan ko, mga minamahal ko mga colleagues, Are you hearing me? Alam ko napapakinggan niyo. Mga minamahal ko mga colleagues, in the same way that you have extended respect towards me, my person, I happen to be a member of the community. I know you can find it in your hearts to extend that respect and recognition to your brothers and sisters in the LGBT community so that all Filipinos, LGBT man o hindi, ay hindi makakaranas ng discrimination. Because when we talk about discrimination, we're also talking about developing potential so that they can become productive citizens of our country. This also will result in economic prosperity for many families. This is what we call inclusive growth. So by ban po ninyo will deliver a sponsorship speech. There are more than 500 advocates coming from all around the country who will be present to witness this. I think this will be delivered shortly before the RTL debates kasi sponsorship speech will take around 20 minutes and then we will resume the RTL discussions, this is pending with the Rules Committee. So, sana po subaybayan ninyo. Kasi, kita nyo naman kami, multifaceted kami. To those who will accuse, ako pati mga walang kwenta, quote-unquote, pinagbibigyan nyo ng pansin. No, hindi to walang kwenta. Lahat ng Pilipino, marginalized, lalo na mga grupong ito, ay dapat pagtuunan ng pansin. And we're capable of doing that. Marami kaming, kaya namin mag-multitasking dito sa House of Representatives. At pananawagan na rin sa Senate. Matagal nang pasado sa committee yun. What are you waiting for? Naka-freezer sa Rules Committee. Sana naman, give it its fair share of time. Huwag nang mawawala kung pag-uusapan yung sa plenaryo. Like what we are about to do here in the House of Representatives. Thank you very much.
Isang pahabol na lang po. Since kanina nababanggit po natin yung Philippine Coast Guard, but in terms sa mga issue about our national security, syempre mahalaga rin naman yung part na ginagawa ng AFP. In fact, kahapon po ay nung pinangunahan ni Pangulong Marcos, yung panunumpa sa tungkulin ng some AFP officials, pinaalalahanan din niya ang AFP at sinabi nga niya na maging faithful sa bansa at sa konstitusyon at sa pagsilbi sa ating mga kababayan. Ano pong masasabi niyo rito at gaano kahalaga nga rin na talagang masuportahan din yung AFP sa pagganap nila dun sa mga tungkulin nila at sa pagtatanggol sa ating bansa? Thank you po.
Ako malaki ang kumpiyansa ko sa mga members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines that they remain loyal to their call and their sworn duty to defend the country and its interests, its territorial integrity, and of course, following the hierarchy that exists in our country, to follow and pledge their loyalty to the Commander-in-Chief, who is the President of our Republic, President Bongbong Marcos. Alam niyo, hindi nga kailangan palalahanan to, but of course, in the light of recent rumors na merong daw mga former military personnel na nanghihikayat, kinailangan siguro, minarapat ng presidenteng paalala sa kanila ang kanilang sinumpaang pagtanggol ng ating bansa at pagtanggol ng pagkakaisa ng ating bansa. Ito naman ang pananawagan ko, personal na pananawagan sa Armed Forces of the Philippines. I'm also a member of the Reserve Force. Mga sir, mga ma'am, mga kapatid, please, suportahan natin ang Pangulo. In the same way that in the previous administration, we showed our loyalty and also our support kay former President Duterte, we can also do it, and we should do it, to the current President of our Republic, President Bongbong Marcos. Anyway, I think he's doing a great job. Di ba, ang sakit-sakit? Alam mo, marami ako nakausap ng mga military personnel din eh. There was a time, ang sakit-sakit sa kanila na parang quiet lang tayo dun sa China. Pero ngayon, maraming mga miyembro ng militar, ng armed forces, ang feeling proud na kung ano nararamdaman nila na express ng ating Pangulo, ng ating executive, ng DFA, pati ng Kongreso, laban sa pangbubullying ng China. So, yun lang po masasabi namin.
Ako, we have a professional armed forces naman, and I don't think they need any reminding that they should be loyal to the Constitution and to the government. So sa akin, it's not an issue on military adventurism. It's long been over and done with. So I hope na they continue to support our president. They continue to support our Constitution because that is what they should be rightfully doing. So tama din yun na sinabi ni Congressman Roman na we have also been showing them the best support that we could give them. No? Sa budget, very supportive ang Kongreso. In all the other things that they do, we've also been very supportive of our armed forces.
In addition lang po, no, although not necessarily that, I think it's very unfortunate na nadadamay po yung ating mga brothers and sisters in the security sector. A lot of people have been imputing conspiracy theories na sasangkot daw sa mga D-Stab plot or mga Koopman or kung ano man ang sinasabi. But I think it's very unfair. From the few people that I do know from the security sector, these are men and women of integrity po. Unquestionable. Kahit nga po yung sinabi po natin, yung the oath to uphold and protect the Constitution of this country, hindi na po yung necessary. And from seeing these men and women, I do believe that they don't need that reminder. So all that we could do, I guess, I suppose, is to show our support for these men and women and show that we are confident that they would uphold this promise. But kahit sa kanila po siguro, maybe they would like to remind themselves, not so much because they need it, but because they want to. We've seen the dedication in them, and we hope that they continue to support and stay true to their pledge po, no?
Apologies po, no? I just overlooked from my records. Meron pa ho tayong isang magtatanong. Last na lang po talaga to. From Armed Forces Radio, Terence Grana. Go ahead.
Yes, para kay Kong Mika. Ano po ang update sa ating universal social pension?
Opo, maraming salamat po sa tanong. Masaya po kaming ibalita na yung bill po patungkol sa Universal Social Pension, ngayon po ay pasado na sa lahat ng mga komite dito po sa Kongreso. Tapos na po kami sa Committee on Senior Citizens, and just last Wednesday, nung nakaraang Wednesday po, ay naipasa na rin po ito sa Committee on Appropriations. Ako po, very, very happy about this po. Kasi po, bilang principal author po ng House Bill number 1704, this has been something that ako po at ang aking pong ama, si Congressman Toto Swansing, have been fighting for a long time. And masaya po kami kasi nagpapasalamat po kami sa Committee on Appropriations, kay Chair Zaldi, kay Kong Stella, kay SVC Stella. Kasi po, at si Kong Mila, Kong Ompong, ang chairman po ng Committee on Senior Citizens. Dahil ginawan po talaga namin ng paraan. Kasi po, syempre, ang laging usapin patungkol dito ay meron bang sapat na budget para maging posible to. At nagpapasalamat po kami sa Committee on Appropriations kasi nagawan po ng paraan. Dito po sa current version na naipasa sa Committee on Appropriations, lahat po ay magkakaroon na ng pensyon. Lahat po ng mga senior citizens, basta po 60 years old pataas, ay makakatanggap na po ng pensyon. May tanong po kasi, ngayon 'di ba kaka-implement lang po yung mga nakatanggap ng 1,000 pesos ngayon. So dito po sa kasalukuyan po na forma ng bill, lahat po ng mga kasalukuyang nakakatanggap ng 1,000 pesos ay tuloy-tuloy na makakatanggap ng 1,000 pesos, at yung mga hindi nakakatanggap sa kasalukuyan ay magsisimula ng makatanggap ng 500 pesos, at taon-taon ito po ay tataas hanggang po sa pagkatapos ng 5 taon, uniform na po. Pare-pareho na po yung mga matatanggap ng lahat at 1,000 pesos. So, yun po yung aming masaya na nais ibalita. Bakit po natin ipinaglalaban itong Universal Social Pension? Kasi po marami pong mga lolo at lola natin ang nagsusumbong. Sinasabi po na 82 years old na ako, o iba 90 years old na, at hindi nila alam gaano katagal pa sila. Pero sa loob ng ilang dekada ay hindi kailanman sila nakatikim man lang na makatanggap ng pensyon galing po sa ating gobyerno. Yung iba naman nagsasabi na meron daw pong pinupolitika pagdating sa lokal na level na hindi sila napapabilang sa listahan o di kaya bigla silang natatanggal sa listahan. Kaya ito na po ang tugon ng Kongreso. Ito na po ang aking tugon sa ating mga lolo at lola na sa pamamagitan po nitong Universal Social Pension na pasado na po sa lahat ng mga komite ng Kongreso. Wala na pong pili-pili. Lahat po ng mga lolo at lola, basta po 60 years old pataas, itaas ay makakatanggap na po ng pensyon galing po sa ating gobyerno.
Thank you.
Thank you. We ask our honorable guests to share their closing remarks.
As you can see here from the House of Representatives under the leadership of Speaker Martin Romualdez, we try to respond to the daily needs of the Filipino family. All aspects of the lives of the Filipino family, from food stability, providing employment, equal opportunities, covering immediate needs, like yung 3,000 sa food stamp program, as well as yung social pensions ng ating mga senior citizens are being addressed. This is only a reflection of the truth that we live here in the House of Representatives, where each district representative is in direct engagement with his or her constituents. And as a product of this direct engagement, we come up with real-life solutions. We work with a sense of urgency and expediency. Hindi po kami pabanjing-banjing at madali po namin tinatrabaho ang ating mga panukalang batas. Sana po lahat ng aming mga katuwang sa Senado will also adopt this kind of attitude, especially po pagdating sa ating rice tarification law. Ito po ang pananawagan ng ating mga magsasaka, ng ating mga consumers. Gayun na rin po ang ibang panukalang batas na ipapasa namin dito sa Kongreso. At sana umaakyat na po sa Senado. So maraming salamat po. Inuunahan ko na po ang pasasalamat ng pagsuporta ng Senado. I'm sure they can find it in their hearts, especially for our rice tarification law. And maybe, just maybe, bigyan naman yung ating SOGSC Equality Bill and other measures that we pass here in the lower house. Thank you very much.
Closing message sana ko na alala ko lang meron kaming notice. So please maintain 4 inches distance from the microphone. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So ganyan din siguro kayo kasi it's not healthy pag maraming mga laway, no? Narinig ko nga in closing kung medyo ano lang, narinig niyo yung, what do you get when you kiss a guy? You get enough germs to cause pneumonia. Pero balanse yan, ha? Kasi congratulations dun sa aming kaibigan, kay Governor Dodo Mandanas. What do you get when you kiss your wife? You get enough blood to pump your neurons. Kaya dito sa Kongreso, ang palaging mantra ni Speaker Martin Romualdez ay balansihin. Kasi sa dami ng problema, it will never be perfect, but the walking mantra is always put the welfare of the Filipino families foremost in every step that we take. Maraming salamat.
Opo, una po sa lahat, nais ko po magpasalamat sa aming po mga kaibigan sa press at sa media. It's been a 1 hour, 45-minute press conference. So we really would like to say thank you for the time and the effort and the very constructive questions. Importante po, tulad po ng aming sinasabi, napakamahalaga po nung inyong mga tanong sa amin kasi may mga bagay na developing stories pa lang na bagong-bago at salamat po na binibigyan niyo po kami ng pagkakataon na malaman yung mga katanungan nyo, and this really is very helpful in informing our policy making. So maraming salamat po sa inyo. In closing po, I would like to again appeal to our friends in the Senate to please pass the rice tarification law, the amendments rather to the rice tarification law from their side. We have been working very hard on the part of the House. Nagmamarathon po kami ng hearings. Nagmarathon kami kahapon sa plenaryo para po matapos po namin yung mga debate. And as Kong Geraldine said, this measure would greatly benefit our Filipino farmers. It would greatly benefit the poorest of the poor families.